Namaskar. Welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Rajiv and you're watching the premiere episode of our new series, History Behind Headlines. Here, each week, we unravel the deeper stories hidden within today's headlines. Stories shaped by centuries of history. On Thursday, the world watched as white smoke rose once again above St. Peter's Basilica, signaling not just the election of a new pope, but the continuation of one of the most enduring institutions in human civilization. Today, we journey beyond the ceremony to explore the legacy, power, and influence of the papacy, an office that has weathered empires, inspired revolutions, and guided over 1 billion faithful through history's greatest storms. In the heart of Rome, nestled behind ancient walls, lies a city-state smaller than any other. Yet, its influence has spanned continents and centuries. Vatican City, the smallest independent state in the world with just 44 hectares, serves as the epicenter of the Roman Catholic Church, home to one of the oldest institutions of the world, the papacy. Its sovereign ruler is not a king, not a president, but a pontiff, the Pope. For nearly 2,000 years, the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, has guided the faith of more than 1 billion Catholics, shaped global events, and stood as a symbol of continuity in a changing world. This is the story of the papacy, its beginnings, its triumphs and trials, and its path into the future. The papacy is one of the oldest continuous offices in human history. Over nearly 2 millennia, it has endured the rise and fall of empires, steered faith through schisms and reformations, and influenced the course of civilizations. In this episode, we trace the arc of the papacy from its apostolic foundations through centuries of power and persecution into its modern challenges and the uncertain but hopeful road ahead. After the funeral and mourning period for Pope Francis, the papal conclave to select the new pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church began on May 7th. Cardinals from all over the world cast their votes for the next pope in a process that has remained relatively unchanged for the last nearly 800 years and has always been cloaked in secrecy. On May 7th, the Sistine Chapel was sealed, and the cardinals and the Vatican staff who interacted with the cardinals during the conclave swore an oath of secrecy. It is expected that everyone upholds that oath, and the world does not hear any news until it sees the first billows of smoke. So, what is the history of the conclave, and what happens behind the closed doors? Canon law stipulates that any baptized unmarried man is technically eligible to become pope. Despite that language, we see that a pope is elected among the College of Cardinals. 133 eligible cardinals took part in the voting this time. The rule book for the conclaves is found in the Apostolic Constitution. Cardinals vote until a candidate secures a 2/3 majority. In each round of voting, the cardinal fills in their candidate's name on a card that says, "Eligo in summum pontificum," I elect as supreme pontiff. Each cardinal then approaches the 3 scrutineers in front of Michelangelo's Last Judgment fresco and drops the ballot in an urn. After the ballots get tallied, they are burned. Black smoke means a failed vote. White smoke means a new pope. If elected, the cardinal is asked if he will accept. He then reveals his papal name, which gets announced to the world from a window facing St. Peter's Square. For centuries, popes simply used their baptismal name upon election. However, in 533 CE, a priest named Mercurius was elected pope. Uncomfortable being named after a pagan Roman god, he selected a new name, John II, after a previous pope. Since then, most popes have chosen a new name, usually from a previous pope whose legacy he hopes to emulate. Some of the most frequently used papal names have been John 23 times, Gregory 16 times, Benedict 16 times, Clement 14 times, Leo 14 times, Innocent 13 times, and Pius 12 times. In 1268 to 1271, the cardinals remained deadlocked and could not select a pope. This took place north of Rome in Viterbo. Papal elections sometimes took place outside of Rome if local violence threatened the safety of the cardinals. Local magistrates and residents became so frustrated that they locked the cardinals into a room until a decision was made. This is where the term conclave originated. Conclave means with a key in Latin. The cardinals were only fed bread and water that was passed through a window. When these rigid conditions did not expedite the process, the magistrates literally removed the roof of the Palazzo dei Papi to let the Holy Spirit in. This led to the election of Pope Gregory X, who laid the foundation for the conclave process that is used today. The process of using white smoke to signal that a pope has been elected began in 1914. The smoke is a combination of pellets that are burned and a mix of chemicals. However, because it is sometimes difficult to discern the difference between the white and the black smoke, more chemicals are added. And beginning in 2005, bells now chime once a pope has been elected. And Habemus Papam, meaning we have a pope, gets announced.
Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum. Habemus Papam.
On May 8th, the second day of the conclave, Robert Francis Prevost became the 267th pope. He is the first US-born pope. Prevost will be known as Pope Leo XIV. Pope Leo XIV was born in Chicago.
It is such a joyful time for the Catholics all over the world. On the third ballot, Pope Leo XIV was elected. It was such a joy. And we know it is Cardinal Roberto Francis Prevost from Chicago who became the Pope. Such a joyful thing for all the Catholics all over the world, and maybe all the more for the Americans because it's the first American Pope. And moreover, he, as a naturalized citizen of Peru, it's again such a beautiful thing. And in his first appearance, what he said was, "Peace be with you." So we see Pope Leo XIV is somebody who is seeking for or praying for a peace in the world.
Let us once again return to the history of the papacy. The story of the papacy begins in the 1st century AD. According to Catholic tradition, Apostle Peter, one of Jesus of Nazareth's 12 disciples, was chosen by Christ himself to feed his sheep and lead his followers. Around 64 AD, Peter was martyred in Rome during the persecution of Christians under Emperor Nero. He was crucified upside down by his own request and buried on Vatican Hill. That site would later become the foundation of St. Peter's Basilica. The successors to Peter, the bishops of Rome, gradually assumed leadership among early Christian communities. In a fragmented Roman Empire, the authority of Rome's bishop held special weight. By the end of the 2nd century, the idea of apostolic succession gave legitimacy to the office. By the 4th century, a seismic shift occurred. In 313 AD, the Emperor Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, legalizing Christianity. Soon after, in 380, Emperor Theodosius declared it as the official religion of the Roman Empire. The Bishop of Rome, once persecuted, now presided at the heart of imperial favor. As the Roman Empire in the West collapsed in the 5th century, the Bishop of Rome emerged as a stabilizing figure. Pope Leo I, known as Leo the Great, played a pivotal role in asserting papal authority. In 452, he famously persuaded Attila the Hun to spare Rome, a moment that elevated the Pope as a moral and political force. In 800 AD, Pope Leo XIII crowned Charlemagne as Holy Roman Emperor, reviving imperial authority in the West under the Church's blessing. The papacy had begun to intertwine itself with kings and kingdoms. Yet this entanglement brought tensions. Throughout the 9th and the 10th centuries, popes were often pawns of noble families. The period known as Saeculum Obscurum, or the Dark Age of the papacy, was marked by corruption and instability. But reform was coming. In 1054, a lasting rupture split Christianity into two: the Roman Catholic Church in the West and the Eastern Orthodox Church in the East, known as the Great Schism. It underscored the growing assertion of Rome's universal authority, even as it faced permanent division. By the late 11th century, the papacy had begun to reassert itself with vigor. Pope Gregory VII, in the 1070s, initiated the Gregorian reforms, asserting the supremacy of the spiritual authority over secular rulers. He famously clashed with the Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV in the investiture controversy, a dispute over who had the right to appoint bishops. Henry was eventually forced to seek forgiveness, standing barefoot in the snow at Canossa in 1077. Under Pope Urban II in 1095, the papacy also launched the First Crusade, calling Christians to reclaim Jerusalem. While deeply controversial today, the Crusades marked the high tide of papal influence in geopolitics. During the 13th century, under Pope Innocent III, the papacy reached its zenith. Innocent wielded authority over kings, launched crusades, and convened the Fourth Lateran Council to define doctrine and reform church governance. But cracks were forming. The rise of the strong monarchies in France and England challenged papal supremacy. In 1309, the papacy moved to Avignon, France, under heavy French influence, a period called as the Babylonian captivity of the church. For nearly 70 years, popes resided outside of Rome. The 14th and the 15th centuries tested the unity of the church as never before. In 1378, the papacy returned to Rome, but rival factions soon elected multiple popes. For nearly 40 years, Christendom was divided, with two and briefly three competing pontiffs. The Western Schism severely damaged the credibility of the institution. In 1417, the Council of Constance restored unity by electing Pope Martin V, yet the damage lingered. The 16th century ushered in the Protestant Reformation. In 1517, Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses on the church door in Wittenberg, challenging the sale of indulgences and the moral decay within the church hierarchy. Pope Leo X excommunicated Luther in 1521, but the movement had already taken root. Across northern Europe, entire nations broke away from papal authority. In response, the Catholic Church initiated the Counter-Reformation. The Council of Trent reaffirmed doctrine, reformed clerical practices, and revitalized the Catholic mission. New religious orders, such as the Jesuits, carried the Catholic message across the world, from Asia to Americas. While the papacy lost ground in Europe, it gained global reach. Though spiritually influential, the papacy's temporal power began to wane in the modern age. Enlightenment thinkers questioned religious authority. Revolutions in France and America championed secular governance. In 1798, during the French Revolution, Pope Pius VI was taken prisoner by Napoleon's forces. Yet the Papal States endured until 1870. That year, Italian nationalists captured Rome, ending papal rule over central Italy. Pope Pius IX withdrew into the Vatican and declared himself a prisoner of the Vatican. In the same year, the First Vatican Council defined the doctrine of papal infallibility, affirming the Pope's authority in matters of faith and morals when speaking ex cathedra. The 20th century began with the papacy in retreat, but that would soon change. In 1929, the Lateran Treaty between the Holy See and the Kingdom of Italy recognized Vatican City as an independent sovereign entity. The Pope was once again a temporal head of state, albeit over a spiritual kingdom. Pope Pius XII, during World War II, faced criticism and praise for his neutrality and quiet diplomacy. After the war, the Church played a role in rebuilding Europe. Then came a moment of transformation. In 1958, Pope John XXIII convened the Second Vatican Council, a bold move to modernize the Church. From 1962 to 1965, the Council reshaped liturgy, promoted dialogue with other faiths, and encouraged greater lay participation. It was a revolution of reform from within. Pope John Paul II, elected in 1978, became one of the most recognizable global figures. He played a pivotal role in inspiring resistance to communism in Eastern Europe. His charisma and travels brought the papacy into the global media age. The 21st century has seen the papacy face profound challenges and undergo unprecedented change. In 2013, Pope Benedict XVI became the first pope in nearly 600 years to resign, citing health reasons. His quiet departure opened the way for the historic election of Pope Francis, who became the first pope from the Americas and the first Jesuit pontiff. Pope Francis was the first non-European pope since the 8th century. With his emphasis on mercy, humility, environmental stewardship, and social justice, Pope Francis sought to reorient the Church toward the marginalized. But the Church continues to grapple with internal crises. Most notably, the global sexual abuse scandal. which has eroded trust and sparked calls for deeper accountability and reform. Pope Francis opened cautious dialogue on previously taboo topics: the role of women in the church, celibacy, the treatment of LGBTQ+ individuals, and decentralization of church governance.
The challenges that the new Pope is facing, you can understand it's very Herculean, because we have Pope Francis, who have opened up the whole papacy to the world, showing so much intense concern for the poor, making a sense of inclusiveness. Everybody is welcome into the church's umbrella, and reaching out to the poorest of the poor, the refugees, the war-torn areas. That's what Pope Francis did. And exactly we would expect the same thing from the new Pope Leo, because he was in Peru, naturalized a citizen of Peru. You know, the country is very poor, abject poverty and struggles, difficulties. He has seen difficulties of life from close corners. So what is going to happen is he's going to take the legacy that Pope Francis has left to the next level. Think about Pope Francis writing about protecting the whole universe.
The relationship between the papacy and India spans centuries, rooted in early Christian traditions believed to have been brought to the Indian subcontinent by Saint Thomas, the apostle, in the 1st century CE. Over time, this spiritual connection evolved into a formal ecclesiastical bond, particularly after the arrival of European missionaries in the 15th and the 16th centuries under papal patronage. The papacy played a significant role in shaping the Catholic Church in India, establishing dioceses, appointing bishops, and supporting missionary work. Despite India's religious diversity, successive popes have consistently emphasized interfaith dialogue, peace, and the protection of religious freedom in the country. The papal visits to India, notably by Pope Paul VI in 1964, Pope John Paul II in 1986 and 1999, were historic moments that reinforced the Vatican's commitment to fostering spiritual and humanitarian ties with the Indian people.
For us, many of us in India, especially in Kerala and all, there is a community of the Augustinians who are whose superior general twice was Pope Leo XIV, Robert Prevost. So he has visited Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, and all these places. So Pope Leo XIV is no stranger to India. He knows India. He has walked through the length and breadth of India. He has seen our situations. So it's going to be something beautiful for Indians as well. Maybe this is the first time a Pope who is so connected with India as well. As a priest, he was here. Twice he visited the country.
What lies in store for the papacy? Demographically, the center of Catholicism is shifting to the global south, Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Future popes may increasingly reflect this diversity. Debates swirl over issues once considered immutable. Could the Church allow married priests? Will women take the greater role? Will the Vatican evolve into a more collegial body with less centralized power? Amid secularization in the West and persecution in parts of the world, the Pope remains a symbol not of political might but of moral leadership. In an age of climate crisis, conflict, and inequality, the papacy's future relevance may depend not on its power to command but its ability to inspire. From the martyrdom of Peter to the modern pontificate of Leo XIV, the papacy has endured, reshaped by history, yet rooted in tradition. It remains one of humanity's most enduring institutions, a voice across centuries calling for conscience. The keys of Peter have passed through 267 pair of hands. The legacy continues, not in stone, but in spirit.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.